Chapter 4 of the unit teaches students how organisms adapt to their environments. It introduces the concepts of natural selection and evolution. Like organisms, songs and instruments have evolved through history. We again invite students to return to the musical connections and analogies they've been making all unit long. Let's take a musical trip down memory lane and consider how the guitar has evolved with the times. When sharing these images with your students, ask them to think about what may have led to the changes in its appearance over time. The guitar that we think of today evolved over many hundreds of years. Changes in musical styles and technology brought it from a simple wooden instrument with a hollowed-out body, a stick-like neck, and a number of strings, anywhere from 2 to a dozen, to the very sophisticated and potentially very loud electric guitars we know today. A few of the milestone in guitar changes. 1. During the Renaissance period in Europe, around 1500, most of the early guitars were smaller than the instrument we know today as an acoustic guitar. They were a little bigger than a ukulele. The strings were made out of gut, sheep intestines. The sound was thin and not very loud. All right, number 2, the guitar and the way it was played went through a few changes during the Baroque period from the 1600s to the 1700s. Although there were still many variations, the bodies of the guitars started getting bigger, which meant the sound became fuller. A 5th pair of strings was added and several tunings were developed. The guitar was often played in a style that was similar to what we call strumming, brushing the strings with the fingers in a rhythmic manner. The guitar began to be played by people with little to no previous musical experience. It became a way for street musicians and singers to accompany themselves with an instrument. The guitar was looked down on as being crude and not as musical as some of the other stringed instruments like the lute. Number 3, by the 1800s, the guitar had 6 strings. In the 1850s, a Spanish guitar maker named Antonio de Torres Jurado invented a way of building a bigger box or body of the guitar that allowed for an improved sound. His design is still used today for Spanish or classical guitars. The strings on his guitars were still made of sheep's intestines though. All right, number 4. The technology changed in the 1880s and it became possible to make guitar strings out of steel for a louder, brighter sound. In America, a new way of building the guitar body meant that the instruments could be strong enough to handle the tension or the pull of this kind of string. As society became noisier during the Industrial Revolution, the guitar became louder. New designs meant that makers could carve the wood for the tops of guitars called archtops. Archtops were louder and more able to be heard in noisier settings. Number 5. In the early 1900s, inventors created the technology that would allow guitars to be electrified. A small group of magnets wrapped in wire were placed under the strings and the signal was sent through something called an amplifier, an electric box with a speaker that could be turned up to make the guitar sound louder. Soon, people realized that they didn't need to make a box for the sound. They could make guitars out of solid wood, and the electric pickups and the amplifiers would be able to make the music incredibly loud. Louder than any of the early guitar players ever could have imagined.